What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Good Success Podcast. I am your host, Josh Culler, and today we got a very interesting format for you. It's not going to be your typical investor interview that we normally do on these Facebook live streams, and now that we're starting to do more on the podcast, we're actually going to talk about a amazing topic that our guy Aaron Chapman here has talked about at our mastermind the past couple times, and it never gets old. It totally never gets old. It's seriously one of the best talks that you'll ever hear. But you guys are going to listen to this, and we're going to try to nominate. No, we're not going to try. We're actually going to do it. But we're going to try to get Aaron on the TED Talks to actually make this a TED Talk. So you guys know TED Talks, and most of you, if you're listening to this podcast or watching the live stream, you guys know what TED Talks are. So you know all about that. We're going to try to get Aaron on there. So first of all, Aaron, what's up, man? It's good to have you on the podcast.
How you doing, brother? Good to be on here again.
Oh man, it's good. So Aaron is actually a part of the Good Success Mastermind. He joined in February. Super stoked to have him join. That was awesome. I mean, this might sound a little funny, but if you guys you said, Josh, if you think of one person that has the most common sense, who would you think of? Me would be Aaron Chapman. Like all the feedback that you always give at the mastermind is just straight common sense, but common sense isn't very common, right? So everything that Aaron says and gives feedback on is just all the experience that he has, and then the knowledge, and he actually just lets it out and just talks about it, and even sometimes says things that other people aren't willing to say, but the people in the front of the room need to hear it. And so it's definitely exciting to have Aaron on. But before we come back to him and actually go through this whole thing, you guys are not going to want to miss this. So make sure you turn the volume up, listen really good, and then take notes during this thing. So before we get into it, we're going to talk about a few things. So Mastermind coming up in August 9, 10, and 11. Aaron is a part of that, like I said, and we are very excited to get that going again. And we're going to have another big group. I don't know, Aaron, was that a pretty big group that we had?
That was tight quarters, man. That was tight quarters. I didn't know.
I know you were up shoulder to shoulder with Robert over there in that corner.
Robert was closer to me than I ever wanted him to be. But he's a good dude. I really enjoyed that. And just, I don't know, man, be able to pack that many people into one place is kind of cool in the sense that it feels more alive than when you have empty chairs and a little more space. But I also love to have a little bit more room. There's got to be. Tell me, is there a first class section that we can get better leg room?
Well, maybe we'll create a VIP package or something like that.
Exactly, a place where we can stretch out. Get a few of us some recliners, and it'll feel a little bit better.
Yeah, there you go. It's first class service and that kind of stuff. So, but we are actually going to have the next mastermind at a country club, so we will have more room, Aaron. So you're going to get your wish. So the next mastermind is actually going to be local, right in our backyard. We're actually in Gary, Indiana, right outside of Maryville, Indiana, and the country club is in Maryville, Indiana. It's a beautiful golf course that they have there, so we'll probably have that as an activity. But we're going to have a beautiful room there, so you guys make sure you check it out at goodsuccess.com/mastermind. Kevin's going to have it linked below. Kevin's going to be on all the links and everything, so everything that we mentioned about Aaron, anything that we mentioned about the events that we have is going to be linked below, so make sure you guys check that out. And then next is the Community Go-Giver event in July. It is extremely close. Normally I have Tom to talk about it, but today he is actually out at some houses doing some work that he's got to get done. So the Community Go-Giver event, guys, we're going to have a link below, communitygogiver.com. We are selling out at 80 seats. We don't have 80 seats still available. We are selling out at that number. That's all the fire marshal says that we can have. And it actually is happening in our building at our office. So we're very excited about that. Tickets are going to go up very soon. So make sure you guys check that out. And then also it's going to sell out soon. So make sure you guys go purchase your tickets now. It's going to be a very stacked lineup. We've got Walter Walford coming in, Jim Ingersoll, Eddie Wilson, Josh Belk, Quincy Long, Gary Harper. I mean, Aaron, you know most of these guys, so it's going to be a pretty stacked lineup. We're excited about it. Of course, Tom Olson's going to be speaking as well. So, guys, make sure you go check it out. 100% education. There's going to be so much education. Oh, and Mr. Landlord's going to be there. Jeffrey Taylor. I almost forgot him. So we're excited to have that going on. So it's a 3-day event, July 25, 26, and 27. So without further ado, Aaron, let's go ahead and get into this, man. So I'm going to, first of all, I'd like for you to actually introduce yourself. So we have had Aaron on the podcast before. So if you guys missed out on that, Kevin's going to have a direct link to that podcast below. So make sure you guys go check it out after you watch the live stream and listen to this podcast. But Aaron, go ahead and introduce yourself for us, the people that don't know, who you are because they haven't listened to the previous podcast. And then we'll go ahead and jump right into the talk that we have here. So introduction, who you are, what you do, how long are you doing that?
Perfect. So again, Aaron Chapman, because it just feels right if you're doing an intro, you got to throw the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presently, how I'm hooked up with Good Success all comes from my vocation in the finance industry. I've been asked to speak in a lot of different places, and they say, hey, we're going to have a guy here that does residential and commercial investment finance. So there's an expectation when you hear that. And when I walk in the room or climb on stage or whatever, and this is how I dress, I'll bet you have 30 of these shirts, 3 or 4 of these hats, different patches on them. They all have a chainsaw on them. Pair of denim jeans. I have all the same style, a ton of them in my closet, and a pair of motorcycle boots, and that's it. That's how I roll because I want consistency in my life. I don't have time to even think, what am I going to wear today? I just grab it and go. Right. Mm-hmm. And what has happened, it has evolved because of what they expect to what they see changes so much. The paradigm is so different that it draws in the attention. So I found that works out really well in my conversations with people. Now, I haven't always done this. I crawled out of the mines in New Mexico back in 2007. And I was introduced to this, and that's a long story about how we got here. And there's a lot of lessons that were learned. And one of the things you said was very kind. I appreciate you saying that my common sense, because that's what I got to lean on, man. I don't have the education background. Mm-hmm. Everything I learned was from getting my kick, figuring out the lesson and applying that lesson and growing from it. That's how my life and really my business has developed. In fact, I used to be a marathon runner. I used to climb mountains, do all kinds of stuff, just a lot of exercise, a lot of outdoor activity. And I had my legs taken from me in 2008. Found myself in a wheelchair because of a motorcycle accident. And I determined at that point, actually before that, I'd always had a goatee because there was a patch right here that would never grow in. Because of the accident, I tore this side of my face off at 80 some odd miles an hour on the pavement, and it migrated the beard to where I could grow in. So I decided that at that point, I would not trim that beard till I could learn how to walk again. Then at that point, I learned how to walk again. It was about probably yay long, and I decided just let it go. And since then, I've got my body back and I can do things. I've been working with the sheriff's office in a volunteer capacity, running their technical rescue unit, which is all the high angle cliffs, that kind of stuff, rescuing people off cliffs and down crevices, as well as their off-road rescue unit. So I figured if the Lord's going to give me that back, I need to do something for somebody else other than me. And I've tried to use that philosophy and a very basic philosophy in life going forward, in the sense that tactics and strategies will always change. Like you said, if we're sitting in this meeting, people start talking tactically. They start talking about the strategies of business. And what I found, if you just have the right principles, what endures. And it's easy to get into the common sense thing of it when you go back to your principles and you look at it from that perspective, because tactics will always adjust. Take a look at warfare, for instance. You can't fight a Vietnam style war in Afghanistan. It's different, right? Even though the same basic principles are there, the tactics have changed dramatically. We have to do the same thing with our life and business. And one of these tactics and strategies that I had found ends up not really being a tactic or a strategy. It was all based on principle. And we talk about, and what I share a lot across the world, I'm trying to get it out there. And one of the reasons we're here today is the practical application of gratitude. Many people I talk to have either read The Secret, seen the movie, or at least heard about it, right? And a lot of your public speakers talk about gratitude. And for the most part, I've only found everybody talking about how gratitude helps you because it changes how you feel, right? You start your day with gratitude, you feel better all day long. That's the best I could get out of anybody. I'm not saying that that's bad. I fully agree with it, but there's had to be more. But I never really pursued it. I just kind of pass it off as that's what gratitude was for. Well, I found myself in a situation a few years ago where I had an employee that she was fairly new to the business, but not completely new to banking. She worked in a different side of it, but I had need to hire more staff, and she came aboard. And I had told her when we hired her that we'd started a certain salary and we had reevaluated over time. About 90 days. We started at a 90-day window, but we had to stretch it out to 6 months because I had a partnership go bad within that 90-day window. So I had to stretch this out because I could not justifiably look at any sort of adjustments while we were rebuilding at that point. And a lot of the lessons learned in the rebuild, believe me, is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. One of the most devastating things, but one of the best things. And that's a whole other story. So the time came, it was getting ready to evaluate and to kind of look at what we can do for her income. And it's about 2 weeks away from the scheduled meeting time. And as I was thinking about this, I ran the numbers in my head. And then I started looking online to see what was an acceptable increase in pay in a general basis. I even called a friend of mine who was an executive at Expedia and asked her, what do you think? And every number I found was 2 to 3%. 2% for the average, 3% if they were exceptional. The number I had in my head was 10%. I'd also factored 30% in as a bump in her bonus for certain metrics, right? So when I presented that to that friend of mine, she said, good luck, you're never going to see that happen. And I figured, hey, it didn't sit right with me, go to 2-3%. She needed more. She deserved more. So I went to my supervisor. So I don't own this company. I work for a firm, and I am a licensed loan originator within the firm. I presented it. They immediately pushed back. They said, no, there's no way we can get that approved. Well, I did not feel right with accepting that. So I pushed back. I said, what would it take to get that approved? And they said, well, you're going to have to give us a narrative, write up what she had done to contribute to the business that would warrant that kind of a pay increase. So I had to go back through emails. I had to go back through production reports and tie her responses to certain things and her adjustment to her job to production. And there was an actual noticeable lift. Now, was it huge? It wasn't massive, but it was noticeable. And I could see on that trajectory, it continued to build the business. So I made a case. I presented it. A couple of days later, I got the word back. It was accepted. I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe that they would do this.
After all that hard work, all that effort that you put into actually making that the approval process go a little smoother and then get approved. That's a lot of work.
And the pushback that I got up front. It almost felt like they were going to just send me on a futile errand. I kind of, in the back of my mind, there's a little bit of a twinge of that. This is futile, but it was worth it. That way, if I end up getting shot down, I could show her this is what I did to try and get something more, and this is what I got. Mm-hmm. But they came back with the approval, so I was excited. Yeah. I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe this was happening. So the time came. We sat down. I went over everything she did. She did a phenomenal job, and I'm very grateful for the job she did. And I couldn't wait to show her our gratitude. It's like kind of like you watching your kid open the present that he'd been looking at all year long for Christmas. Finally, they're going to open it up. So I slid that over to her. She looked at it, and then her face changed. And it kind of got a little twisted. She's like, that's it? Because I would have thought you could do better than this. Now, I'm not quoting exact, but that's about what she said.
Yeah.
Now, my gut reaction was like many people. My gut reaction was to say, really, then you ungrateful little, throw it out there. I wanted to take that back. I wanted to take back everything I gave her. I wanted that bonus. I wanted that raise back. Give it to me. In fact, then it escalated from there. Then emotionally, I want the job. Go clean out your desk and get the hell out. Mm-hmm. And then on your way out, drop off the keys to your car because you don't deserve that. Right? I was mad. I was angry. But I sat back on my chair and I allowed my head to take over. I went from the emotional side to more of a coaching mode because that's my job, right? Mm-hmm. I have employees. I have to talk them through things. So I told her, I get where you're coming from. I'm not sure what you would expected, but I could embrace one that says, thank you, but I'd like to get to this level. What do I got to do to get there, right? That's what I asked about getting her for a raise. I rejected what they gave me, right, 2 to 3%, but I asked them, hey, what do I need to do to get there? And they got me.
Do you think that she felt like she was entitled to a higher raise than what you had given her? Or was it just like did she expect something more? Right.
Oh, she definitely expected something more.
Right.
Right. And I can't say entitlement. I can't speak for exactly what's going on between her ears.
Yeah.
But at the same time, whatever it was pure ingratitude came across.
Yeah.
There's an expectation. Expectation was not met. And it was this sense of ingratitude. And there definitely was a sense of entitlement that came across. And it was really, really bothered me. Mm-hmm. And so at that point, we still had a little bit of a thing between us. We went about our business, and I could tell that there was just a rift there. It had an effect. But then later that same week, I'm exiting the freeway. I'm coming to the office, and as I'm exiting the freeway, I noticed a guy standing on the freeway off-ramp with his cardboard sign. We all know that scene, right? And in a split second, the decision was there that this guy needed help. More so than most that I've seen. There's something about him that stood out.
So something hit you about this particular person that you came across that normally doesn't hit you? Is that safe to say?
Well, I would say it normally doesn't hit me. I mean, you always feel something for somebody who's in a position like that. But this was stronger. It was different. Mm-hmm. It was physically different the way that it hit me. And, years ago, I ran into a situation where I was completely busted. Yeah, and I needed money to get home, just to get enough gas to get home. And I had to scramble around in my truck to find change, looking at a parking lot to try and get enough money to get a couple gallons of gas to get home. So, and that stood out to me. So I've hid money in my truck ever since. In this situation, there was a bill hidden in that spot. I reached for it, brought it down, rolled down my window, and I held it out. This man approached, accepted the bill, folded up, and he thanked me. And as he walked away, he unfolds it. And as he unfolds this, he looks back at me and he says, he holds it up. He goes, "Are you serious, man?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "This is $20, man." And I put my hand out and I said, "It's yours." At that point, he reached up and took my hand, brought it to his chest, bowed his head, and audibly says a prayer of thanks to God. And then he offers a blessing on me for my generosity and for changing his life. Wow. And then as he looks up at me with tears streaming down his cheeks, he starts thanking me profusely for helping him. Now, at that point, this rush of guilt hit me that I didn't have more than $20 to give. And it was interesting because I thought, if you have a square, man, I'll swipe my card. I wanted to give so much more, but I didn't have it with me to be able to hand off. And if you know Arizona drivers, the light is green at this point, and they're honking the horn. And we exchanged God bless yous, and I started to drive on. And as I'm driving, the concept just hit me harder than ever. On one hand, earlier in the week, I'd given somebody about $10,000 a year increase. And they nearly spat in my face. Yeah. And I was angry. I wanted it all back. I wanted the raise. I wanted the job. I wanted everything I'd ever had to do with them back. And on the other side, I gave a guy $20. And because of the way he responded to me, I would have willingly given him that $10,000 all day long and not felt a twinge of loss as a result because of how I felt. Right. So then it just told me this is how it works. It's not a matter of how I feel. It's not a matter of between me and God. It's between me and my fellow man. And as we respond to people with gratitude, they will respond in kind. When we respond to people with ingratitude, they will respond in kind. And I know from personal experience how they will want to respond, because that's how I wanted to respond. So then I got to thinking back on this. What more do I learn from this lesson? I remember a guy speaking at an event where he says, you do not get out of bed until you have 3 new things to be grateful for. Well, I attempted that practice. And about 3 weeks later, you run out of stuff, right? You start treading the same ground. Well, this situation taught me something. I have new things every day. I get referrals from different people all the time. Tom sends me referrals. Jared sends me referrals. I get referrals from other people within your organization. You've sent me referrals. And as I get those, my assistant writes down those names of the person being referred and the person during the referring. And she hands those to me at the end of the day. So that way, at the end of my day, I get to do is what this homeless man taught me, as I get to read these names out loud. And when I say prayer, I offer thanks to God for the blessing of these people who are helping to take care of my family and my future. And I ask a blessing upon them and my ability to help them. And I do that again the next morning. So I've learned so much from the contrast of these two people, and that a homeless man can teach me so much. He changed my life, and she changed my life. So I have an excessive amount of gratitude for both of them, because her reaction taught me how man reacts to such a thing. Mm-hmm. And his reaction taught me how man reacts to that reaction. And then it taught me what to do with that. And now I want to be sure the whole world hears what this really does to exercise gratitude in your life, and to not run around thinking you deserve anything, because you don't deserve. Mm-hmm. You need to earn everything, and you need to be grateful for everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. So such a good talk. So I've got a couple questions coming out of this that I've never gotten the chance to ask you, because you've talked about this in the mastermind during your presentation. We don't really, have question and answer. The feedback at the end, but mainly it's the guy saying, man, that's such a good talk. That's amazing. Like, you totally need to get on stages and give this speech and everything. But for me, I have a little bit of deeper questions. So I actually own a charity that goes out, and Chicago is right in our backyard. And every Christmas we take gifts up to the homeless people. There's thousands and thousands, countless number of homeless people that live in Chicago. And every time I give up, it's just a simple box with like snacks in it, water. There's hats, gloves, scarves, socks, stuff like that. Just like your typical everyday stuff that your normal person would have, but they don't have. And when I hand them these boxes, their faces light up. Most people, their faces light up. Some of them just don't expect it. So they're like, oh, well, thank you. And, maybe they're dismissed out of their mind or whatever. But most people will like be super grateful. But then you have these other people like your employee that you give them something so big that you think is amazing to you, and they spit in your face about it. So I guess my question is, so you talked about how you handled it as a boss. How would you have handled it as a just normal person? So if you were giving that person, she's your employee, but let's just say it was a friend that maybe you gave them something that was special to you that you were excited about, and they said, that's it. I mean, how would you handle something like that? Not being an employee-boss relationship, but maybe a friend-to-friend relationship, because there's tons of people out there that this happens all the time, I'm sure. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Good, solid question. As you're asking that, I was envisioning, so what if I handed that guy $20 and he looked at it and says, you cheap bastard, and throws it on the ground, right?
Yeah. You probably wouldn't feel that bad.
I would be mad. I probably would have jumped out of the truck. $20. I'm like, screw that. It's mine. Then I jump back in and left.
Right.
And that is the natural reaction we have.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is we're going to have to fight that natural reaction to say, screw you, or something to that effect. Or maybe, man, I've seen people go to fights over that. Yeah. Give somebody something that comes from the heart and they throw it back in your face. I've seen people start swinging at each other at that point. And it's really easy to do. But we have to fight that. We have to fight that natural reaction. And sometimes it would be, you just have to walk away from the scenario, because fueling a fire with more anger only builds the fire even greater, right? Somebody's going to end up getting hurt over that. Now, this is not an alpha male situation. This isn't survival of the fittest. Sometimes when you're talking about, especially in the homeless scenario, a lot of it has mental illness.
Yeah.
A lot of them, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
The reason they're more comfortable wandering around the streets, because it's way uncomfortable being around other people. Right. And so you're going to have to expect certain things like that may happen. Does it give us the right to respond negatively back? I don't believe so. We need to get control of those negative responses. And if we go about life with more of a positive approach to things, we attract more positive things in our life. Yeah. And it's amazing how you find yourself in a scenario where, like that one, there's something about the guy, right? And I was living in a very, very positive state of life at that time. I try to every day, because I get up and I have a ritual every morning. And I was attracted to that situation when I saw it, to proceed with it. Now, if there was somebody and maybe I don't know, I'm getting more philosophical here, but maybe you would.
No, it's okay. People need this, so go.
Yeah, you need the philosophical approach. Maybe you're able, if you're in that right state of mind, you're able to tell that person is going to have a negative response. Yeah, and you don't put yourself in that position, right? Yeah. We're not supposed to put ourselves in a position of potential harm, right? I've heard the story. It's like you never go out seeking the opportunity to test yourself in a form of temptation, right? That's why some people don't go to certain places, because they know they don't have the strength to overcome that temptation. If you're going through AA right now, you don't go have hors d'oeuvres at a bar and ask for a club soda. You just stay away from the place. Same thing. You avoid scenarios that's going to put you in that position. We're not going to always be able to avoid everything, but you need to go about life with a positive thought process. And if you're going about life with exercising gratitude, you're going to find some benefit to every experience. No matter what the experience is, positive or negative, there's going to be a benefit to it. We always have those benefits. One of the greatest experiences of my life was when my partner decided to gut me and completely trying to destroy my business, and he take everything for himself. And that happened in November 2015. And I had to restart right there. Back to the basics, the fundamentals. I had to get to the principles of it, which is working with that one client who called 10 minutes later. Ignore the fact he just did this. The important thing was that person who called, and start working that, and then working that, and then working that. Within 6 to 7 months, I was back in the top 10 of the company. Now, since then, I'm ranked number 12 in the nation for units closed of anybody in my business, not just my company, but everybody in the business itself in the United States. And it's all because I'm sticking with the fundamentals. And then not allowing those things to deter me. You're going to have problems. People are going to try and take from you. They're going to try and hurt you. You cannot allow the negativity to stop you. In his situation, when he pulled this, he asked the question, he even made the statement, it's nothing personal, just business. I beg to differ. Business is very, very personal.
Absolutely.
And I'll ask you, Josh, and I think I even asked this at the mastermind. Do you know who said that? Who was the first person to say nothing personal, just business?
I think you said it was a mafia boss or something, right?
Yeah, his name was Otto Berman. He was an accountant for the mob. A lot of people think it might have been a Barnum, it may have been a Carnegie or a Rockefeller. No, it was an accountant for the mob. When something was not going right, he would walk in with his pipe hitters. He would either make that statement going in or coming out to justify what he's doing. And so I ask a lot of people a lot of the questions. Well, ask the question, who have said it or who has had it said? And in what situation was it said? And I basically guarantee you the reason it's being said is because there's no combination of words in the English language that you can string together that justify the crap that's about to go down. And if a person has to go to that extent to use that justification, you got to cover yourself.
Wow.
But him doing that was one of the greatest things that happened to me, because then I learned I never use it.
All right.
I don't ever remember using it, but I know now I definitely will not, because there's something going on in me when I decide I have to, because I'm that weak, I can't come up with a better statement. And then 2, he put me another time at a very low point trying to take me apart. And then going back to the fundamentals, you can continue to gain traction. And now things are continuing to grow. And then you don't ever lose those fundamentals. That's the problem many people get into. They'll use them to get there, and then they switch their gear and think they need to go into a tactic and a strategy and method. And it's all about trying to take this business shark type of approach. It's not what works. It definitely is not what works. You're only going to kill yourself in the process.
Yeah. So you said that they kind of shift gears with it. So do you think that this whole idea of gratitude, and actually gratitude comes down to like in a general spectrum of treating people the right way? Do you think that this whole idea of gratitude, and we say idea very loosely, but it should be something that everybody implements in their life no matter what, but this whole thing of gratitude, do you think it's a mindset thing?
It's definitely a mindset thing. And because that's, what can we control? The only thing we control is what we think, right? That's the absolute only thing you have control over. So once you start controlling what you think, then it becomes a mindset, right? Then it becomes part of your being. And then you start to permeate that, because your entire system is now wrapped in that particular concept. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about neural pathways, and that if you think about something enough, it creates a new pathway. And then you're going to have it battling with old pathways until such time that it bonds so well to those neurons that those other pathways lose their connection. That whole, if you use it, don't use it, you lose it, can work in the positive way as well. If you stop thinking the wrong way, you lose the thoughts of those particular, those directions. Those neural pathways sever. And if you continue to fix it with the right thinking, those not only get connected, but they stay stronger. Right? So it's just like habit. We're all creatures of habit. Habit's going to run our lives. So get a good habit, right? Only way to subdue a bad habit is put a good habit in its place, and then allow that habit to run your life. In the same respect, if you have a habit of looking for reasons to be grateful for any scenario, good or bad, then it just becomes a way of thinking and becomes a way of being. And then really you can just pick them out all the time. But we have to change our thoughts first. Once you control that, then everything else starts to just kind of work out.
Okay. So it is a mindset thing. Totally. And I guess another question I have too is, so somebody, let's say you put yourself in the position of your employee. Now that, I don't know, maybe there was a situation that she may have had an upbringing of ungratefulness. Do you think that ungratefulness is a disease in the spect of like the people that you hang around? We talk about you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. I've personally had this experience. I was a very ungrateful child growing up until my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And then that changed everything. And I ultimately became more grateful because of situations that happened. And I think for me, when I was a kid, it was the kids that I was around because they were all spoiled brats. And I know we're talking about more of like adult life, but in a more general spectrum, for me, it was the kids I was hanging around because they were all spoiled brats, not grateful for anything that they have. And I think that it could even be people that I see today that are very ungrateful and they don't show gratitude towards people with anything. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You know where I'm going with this.
Oh, I agree. It can be a product of your environment. It can be.
So how does somebody develop that kind of, like, it's not personal, it's just business. How does somebody develop something like that? That kind of thought mindset.
Well, it's definitely, there's no two ways about it. That is a incorrect image of themselves when they create that kind of thing. Yeah. When a person is so narcissistic and so full of themselves and so deserving that they can easily justify what it is they're about to do by saying that statement because they believe that they deserve it. And they also are of the mindset that you have to take what you want. It's amazing. You can get what you want by giving to other people, and they can't get that concept. It's kind of like when you're talking about marriage. Some people, when you're talking counselors, they say, well, you need to be more worried about what your spouse needs than what you need. And if you take care of your spouse, they'll take care of you. Well, a lot of times people feel like, well, if I'm just giving, what if they're just taking? And what if I just give and I get nothing back? Well, they don't realize that human nature is to give more so than receive. For me, it's much harder to receive. Mm-hmm. And that is actually the way that we're wired, but we go against it because we start off life. When you think about a child, you brought in the childhood thought process, but when you start life, you're given everything. Yeah. The second you are born, your mom has to take care of every single need you have. There's not a single thing you can do for yourself. There comes a point where mom has to actually allow you to start taking care of yourself in other parts. If they fail to do that, then a person fails to understand that they can take care of themselves and they'll demand that the world takes care of them. And I think that what has happened, I've seen this evolution of children from when I was a child to watching my own children and actually watching the kids between my elementary school years to my high school years, this slight evolution where there was such a thing as playground justice, right? You step out of line, the other kids kick your ass. That's just the way it was, right? Yeah. And you were allowed to get your kick. They would stand back and the teachers would watch and say, okay, who started it? And they would see if that was the one who got whooped. Yeah. Right? And then they would stop it. They wouldn't let it get out of hand. That was allowed back then. It has changed now. You can't even look cross at somebody and they take you out. So the pecking order has been eliminated. This is just my opinion. I think that we are the only species on this planet going backwards in evolution because we are being taken care of by one, this big all encompassing force called the government, by people demanding certain things, by us getting things so simply, and you also don't have to really work for what you need. There's a lot of people just getting it handed to them. Technology has nullified a lot of things. It used to be back in my dad's era, that era of men, the smaller percentage of them were able to handle everything needed to be handled in a day when something would, let's just say anything breaks at the house. There was only a small percentage of those men that could just take care of whatever was broken, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead a couple generations. Now you have to be a specialist to fix a leaky faucet. You have to be a specialist to deal with a light switch that doesn't work, right? Things like that. It's a rare individual that can just handle many things. So we've evolved that direction. And I think because of that evolution, could be that there's an expectation that things are easily acquired when they're really not. Yeah. And when they're not easily acquired, they decide that they need to go take them because it wasn't given so simply. Yeah. The desire to work for it has dwindled rather rapidly. Wow. So I'm trying to figure out different ways that I can get my children to feel the satisfaction of working for it, and they all are doing that. I'm very, very proud of I have a son who's 21, a daughter that's 18 who works for me. So if you're trying to reach out to me and you get a response back from Isabel, she's setting my calendar up because I can't be trusted with my calendar anymore.
She's very good at it. She's very good at it. What I set up is, she's very good.
So that's I don't know if that answers the question completely.
I think it does. Yeah, it was an amazing point of view. Like some things that I've never even thought of before. Now we talked about how you might develop that kind of mindset. So let's say somebody does have that type of mindset that they're not a grateful person. How do you swap that? For me, I know I've actually, with my charity, I actually give an opportunity for people to actually come together. And this past Christmas, I had over 90 people come together and take those boxes up to Chicago and give them out to homeless people. And they're interacting with them and all the time. And I had families going up there where they said their kids need this kind of thing. And they came back like super ecstatic, life changed. I know for me personally, my senior year of high school, which I know that's a little bit of a distance for you, Aaron, but for me, it was only about 7 years ago. So for me, I
stopped counting.
I've gotten to that point where
I'm at 25 years, I think.
Yeah. But for me, my senior year of high school, I had the opportunity to actually go on a missions trip to Jamaica. And that kind of like flipped my world upside down too. I mean, it wasn't the resorts or anything. It was like, we were in the mountains where these people are living in tin huts, like nobody's wearing clothes. These people are, starving and that kind of thing. And it was just a huge eye opener for me. So that definitely, because I was a punk in high school, right? I mean, we all are. Most of us are. But for me, I was definitely that. And I needed that kick in the butt to change my mindset, because I was a very ungrateful person back then. And then as soon as I saw that world, it just totally changed me. And for now, I've been working on the gratefulness side of me. But for you, what do you think? I mean, for somebody that has an ungrateful mindset, for somebody that is ungrateful, how do you flip that around to where you kind of, I guess, influence them to become a grateful person and really get that? And I know that you said that what you focus on will come to life, but I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
That is a really good question. I've never been.
I know it's a hard code to crack, and it may not be the same answer for everybody.
Well, it can't be the same answer for everybody, because everybody's motivated by different things. Yeah. So I would just say, hey, try thanking somebody for something and really, really meaning it. Mm-hmm. Right. And then also try and find somebody who needs something that will really hurt to give, and give it and see how you feel. Right. So see both sides of it. You have to see both sides of it before you can really understand it. I had to see both sides. Right. I had to see the work to give and the ingratitude come back, and the slight give and the huge gratitude come back. I had to experience both sides before I really caught on. Now I wouldn't say I was an ungrateful person, but I didn't understand the depth of the concept at the time. Yeah. And I've always really tried to find the good in everything that I could, because it's a pretty miserable existence when it's nothing but dark clouds and rain, right? Yeah. But I live in Arizona. We love some dark clouds and rain.
We have plenty of that here. We'll send it all your way.
Yeah, our natural disaster here is heat. Right? But I found that my life was much better when I started looking for the benefits of everything, and it's hard. It's really hard. Do you have to be intentional with it? You do have to be intentional for the first. I mean, it can take months or years to be intentional about that, but then all of a sudden it just became easy. Yeah. Now it's life. I have a hard time finding the negative in stuff right now, because I've seen so many negative things happen in my life. I mean, motorcycle accident, I got to kick the beard, right? I now have an awesome story. And then you've got what happened with my business partners, absolutely devastating. But what came out of that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I had a situation happen last year in February of 2017 on creating a vision and getting things to come about that I didn't even anticipate in a weird way. That was one of the worst things that's happened in my business in a long time since my partner pulling what he did. That came around to be another great thing that happened, because we just took it head on and saw there's opportunity. A lot of people fail to understand the greatest opportunities and the greatest things that ever happened to us are packaged in one of the ugliest and worst looking packages you can be given. And then it turns around. When you turn that around, not only do you have an awesome experience to go off of, you learn a lot from it, but then you get to see what you're capable of. Yeah, we are capable of so much more. And we fail to understand what we can accomplish, that we limit ourselves a lot with our expectations, especially with our expectation being completely wrong. We have an expectation of, when we leave, when we're a child, you're thinking you want to be an astronaut. And the second you leave high school, you realize, crap, man, the best I can do right now is I may be able to work at the auto parts store. And that's if I put the application a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
And then slowly life beats you down to where you stop thinking about those potential capabilities. And then you end up being just another person in the herd. Mm-hmm. Now and again, you got to section yourself away from that herd and go climb a hill and look around and see exactly what the possibilities are. Wow. There's absolutely no reason this bald-bearded redneck with a cheated his ass off to get that C in high school to be sitting where I'm sitting right now. Right? The only reason I made it through math is because I could pick a lock, period.
Wow.
Now, I'm sitting here in an industry, you have to understand math, right? Yeah. But the blessing is we have computers now to help me with that. But I talked to a lot of people about taking these numbers, looking at it from different angles, taking tax strategies to enhance what they're getting in their real estate. It doesn't matter what the interest rate is. The return is infinite. You know, there are a lot of people looking at a pro forma the wrong way. Now I've got to be able to talk that language to some rather intelligent people. And I use it, just like you said, very common sense, because I'm not a quantum physicist.
Yeah.
But what I am is a common sense guy. I'm going to apply common sense and just some real basic principles. It's amazing what comes to light and how that has developed my business to be something way beyond anything I could have ever fathomed when I stepped into it.
Yeah.
I remember a guy early on having a lot of faith in me, telling me, you will be in the top 1% of this business someday. Nobody else is in the business that was in it back then. They're all gone. I'm still here. I am in the top 1%. I've been in the top 1% for the last couple of years. And I look back on that and said, that person giving me that little bit of a vote of confidence has kept me going. Yeah. And those people told me I wouldn't make it has kept me going too. Yeah. So it goes back to this whole thought process you're talking about. Just because they're talking negative things doesn't mean you can't use that for solid motivation. Right. And those giving positive feedback you can use for motivation as well. Both things you can use for solid motivation. It's just a matter of the mindset you're going with and how you're thinking. When you start thinking negative, you put this awesome piece of machinery between your ears to work on accomplishing that negative outcome. Mm-hmm. If you continue to think positive, find that end goal, you will put that machine to work between your ears on getting that end goal. You know, I know that here on Good Success, we talk a lot about theology and we talk a lot about religion. One of the things I've been using a lot lately is remembering what Peter was going through when Christ was on the water. He invited him out. As long as he stayed centered on his goal, he was making it through that. The second he took his eyes off the goal, where did he go? And then he needed rescue. Mm-hmm. As with us, don't take your eyes off the goal. And if your goal is to change your mindset, find out what changes your mindset. Mine was getting up at 5 a.m. every day, reading script, having prayer first with my list of names, and then reading scripture and going from that into right now 2 books. It was 2 other books. Now it's transitioned to others. And I'm in the Greatest Salesman in the World and the Master Key.
Gary just said he's reading that.
And I am, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and there's those scrolls in there that you have to read every day for a month, and they're broken down into, I can't remember, I think it's 12 scrolls. I'm only on scroll number 2 right now because I've been at it only for 2 months. And then in the Master Key system, I think there's 17 principles, if I remember correctly, and you have to read 1 principle every day for a week before you go to the next one. Mine is so marked up, it's crazy. You know, they're marked up with their underlines, they're flagged, they've got highlights all in them, because every time I read them, I'm in a little bit of a different mindset from each day, and I pick out something different.
Wow.
So I encourage people, you need to change your mind. Find very good minds to tap into so you can change it. Don't go next door to your negative neighbor and sit with them and just talk about negative crap. You don't get anywhere. Mm-hmm. Right? Find somebody who's going to influence you to think differently. Mine was these books. Mine was Napoleon Hill, Joe Dispenza, reading some things about Andrew Carnegie. And then it dominoed from there to where I'm now in these 2 other books, and it's changing my world all the time. I'm having a hell of a time finding negative stuff anymore. I really am.
That's so incredible. That's so incredible. And you talked about like the things that have come into your life that are negative. And it seems like showing gratefulness in the negative, but also the positive, right? So you're obviously going to show gratitude in the positive, but showing gratitude in the negative, because all that stuff that happened to you put you where you're at today. And I assume that you're a very happy person today. Am I correct with that?
Life has been awesome to me. It's been really, really good. You know, like Christ said, you need to love those who hate you and despitefully use you, and give to those. And then also, you know, give back to those who you care about and take care of yourself. But it was an amazing difference when you start trying to love those who like you said, spitefully use you and find a benefit in what's going on there, because there always is.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And the Bible does say all things work together for good to those who love God. So I think that like even the negative stuff, if you show gratefulness in the negative stuff that comes into your life, and you don't have to acknowledge it, I don't think, as it being negative. I mean, it is already negative, but we have enough negativity in the world, guys. Like there's enough of that already. So
it's going to perpetuate it, right? Negative begets negative. Positive begets positive.
Yeah.
You keep adding pressure. I will never accept what the world hands me. I'm going to start imposing my will and keep adding pressure until it bends, period. And everybody can do that. The problem of it is sometimes you're adding the wrong pressure. Figure out what is the correct pressure and add that. If you're thinking that you should just expect it and as long as you bitch long and loud, somebody's just going to give it to you. No, all they're going to do is walk away from you and leave you alone. Right? And you're going to be left comfortably by yourself at some point, wallowing in your own crap.
Yeah.
So if you can think and remember that positive is going to beget positive, you'll start seeing those positive responses in your life. And sometimes they were already there. Many times they're already in front of you. You're just looking at it from the wrong angle.
That's awesome. And this whole topic, Aaron, I could talk to you the rest of the day about this whole thing, man. My generation I know is just brought up on, almost everybody, everywhere I turn that's my age and even younger are always, they're not grateful people. It's not a grateful generation. And so it's something I'm very passionate about that I try to influence others that are my age and younger as much as possible. So I got a couple of other questions that are kind of off the track of this, but I think that is incredible. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to actually link below. I talked about at the beginning of the podcast that we're trying to get Aaron to actually be nominated to do a TED Talk on gratefulness. And you guys just heard it. It is such an incredible talk that we just had. I tried to ask a little bit of questions and kind of facilitate that a little bit and bring it out a little bit more. But Kevin's actually going to have it linked below. We're going to have a link to directly going to nominate on the TED Talks website for Aaron to be nominated to do this as an actual TED Talk. So it's goodsuccess.com/Aaron. So we're just going to leave it /Aaron. That's going to be easier to go to for everybody. Kevin's going to have it linked below. Guys, everybody that is listening, please do us a favor. Go to that link and nominate Aaron for this talk on gratitude. You guys, it's an amazing thing. So spread the word.
And I appreciate you being willing to do that. And those who are going to take that few minutes to do it. And it's amazing to me, even myself, that I get impatient with 2 or 3 minutes of clicking, right? Or typing. And I appreciate the fact that people are going to take those few minutes from their life because those minutes are precious.
Yeah.
I understand that. And just know this isn't for me. I'm not looking to stand on these stages because, I'd rather be in the mountains by myself and not having to interact. But what I've found is that this has changed people's lives when they start to understand this and put this together. I want to make sure that the world hears this. And if I'm the one that's been handed this particular piece of data, because I've not heard it anywhere else, then by the time I got to get out there and I got to get it in front of people's faces.
100%.
It's the most comfortable thing in the world for me to be on the stage. But I know for a fact the world needs to hear it, and I'm going to drag it to them.
Absolutely. And we're getting that going on the podcast here. So that's one platform. This is just a drop in the bucket though. So guys, help us out. Go to the website, link below, goodsuccess.com/Aaron, and nominate Aaron for this TED Talk. So thank you guys in advance for doing that. And I'm sure Aaron's very grateful for you guys doing that.
More than I can say.
Yeah. And then make sure you guys share this around as well. So get this out to your communities and everything. So Aaron, before we go, I got a couple of other things that we're going to wrap up with. So a question there's 2 questions that I ask everybody on every podcast. So so one of the questions is normally, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started getting into your industry? I think that we can safely say that gratitude is one of those biggest things. So I'm going to hold off on that one because I think that that's definitely something we want to leave fresh in these people's minds. So what does good success mean to you? So we talk about good success. You're in the mastermind. You see everything that goes on. We actually did the Good Success Award. We gave that to Eddie Wilson at the May Mastermind a few weeks ago. And us as a team on the Good Success team have our own definitions. We did episode 100. What is good success to us? And we all get to explain that. For you, what does good success mean to you? And it doesn't have to be what we say, but in your mind, what does it mean?
Well, there's 2 things. One, there's good success as in the banner behind you, meaning the group of people that we can contribute thoughts and theories and problems to, and also garner solutions. So it's a group of people that have made a huge difference in my life. And one, the whole gratitude piece that I'm able to at least share with them. And then the other, success in general, and good success, great success, however you want to put it, for me is being able to do what you do the way you want to and be able to successfully do it, right? I mean, I don't know how best to say that, because look at me. I try and mirror that, right? I will dress, I will act, I will look, I will do what I am going to do, and I'm going to be successful at it, regardless of what anybody else says. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go against every grain that's out there to prove that you can be successful, whatever you want to be, if you just be you. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to work with something that is not you. You know, when I was being taught in this industry how to look, how to dress, how to act, I noticed that all those guys that were criticizing me at 23 years old were gone in just a short period of time. So apparently their tutelage, their teaching wasn't crap, because they didn't stay in the business. Mm-hmm. But I was still there at a grit. I decided to change my appearance to what I was. I wanted the world to see me for who I was right out of the gate. So ultimately, in my mind, is I was not going to lie to them with my appearance. And then I found myself successful being me. Mm-hmm. So to me, good success is being able to be you and do what you do, and be able to continue to keep doing that to make sure that your bills are met, and that you're able to continue to be successful in that process without having to sacrifice yourself.
That's awesome. And then what did you say on one of our mastermind calls, that someone once told you that you have to wear a tie to be successful or something like that? Oh yeah. I mean, it was a suit and a tie, and it had to be clean cut and all these things. And he went back to the job he started at before that. Uh-huh. And he wasn't even able to maintain it. So I found that he was teaching me how to be him. You don't have to. I stand on stages with people now that are in my industry wearing suits, and then I'm standing there. Mm-hmm. And what you're seeing is what I'm wearing when I'm standing there. And when I walk away, I get a lot of response, because they like the fact that it's real. And they can't remember what the other guys look like, because they all look like each other. Yeah. They remember that bald bearded son bitch with a like, you got to be kidding me. He's standing up with there's something going on. There's a reason why that guy's here. What puts him on that stage with those other guys, and he looks so different? It's awesome. Amazing how many people want to know the answer to that question. That's so awesome. So be you, be you, and don't try to be anybody else. Don't apologize for it. Exactly. I love it. So then the last question I have is, so this could be a simple phrase. Let's keep it away from the whole gratitude idea, because we've already established all of that. So give us something fresh here. We always want to have the person that we're interviewing leave one piece of content. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's a thought that you have with the audience. So one thing that you can leave with our audience, what would that be? Whatever you're choosing to do, you persist in it, and persist in it with violence. I mean, you go after life and what you want, like a silverback on Coke, and you do not give up until you get it. Love it, man. That's awesome. Mic drop right there. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Aaron, man, that was awesome. We could go all day with this, and I know you would if we had time too. So. Oh, I definitely would, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing this. We're going to have everybody that's listening to this go to the actual TED Talks, the website, to actually nominate you. And if you guys haven't done it yet, make sure you do that right now, because we're wrapping up the podcast right now, so you guys can jump off and go on there. Kevin's going to have a link below, goodsuccess.com/Aaron. Nominate Aaron for this TED Talk. And like he said, it's not for him to try to be famous or try to be wealthy or whatever. It's try to get this message out of gratitude that everybody needs to hear, because that's just a better way of life. A better way of living is being grateful for what you have, no matter if it's good or bad or whatever. So Aaron, we look forward to having you back. We'll see you in August at the Mastermind, and we're excited about that. So thanks for being on. We'll see you soon. Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. If you have not already, make sure you have subscribed to our podcast. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. And then we do go live every single Friday on Facebook, 12 noon Central Standard Time. So every single Friday, 12 noon Central Standard Time. Make sure you guys join us on Facebook. You guys can leave comments below if you have questions. Aaron, real quick, one thing that I forgot. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that? You can go to aaronbchapman.com. That'll always be up there, because that's my URL. You can also look me up on the NMLS. My NMLS ID is 267844. You get to see all my licenses. So between that, you'll get all my my way of communicating with me via email. And then we should have a direct phone in there.
don't use the office line. There's a 602 number there. Use that. I hate the office number. And then shoot me an email, or like I said, you look up my licenses and make sure that I am who I say that I am.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Appreciate that. So you guys, Kevin's going to link all that below for you guys. So you guys go contact Aaron if you're interested in talking to him. And so that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening in. And remember, whether you're looking to survive, thrive, or matter, our goal is to provide the tools to reach your vision. Thanks again for listening. And until next time.